even going back to my story, I was hypnotized within that marriage to believe the things I was told. I was hypnotized. But we're hypnotized by the media. We're hypnotized, by TV, by commercials. Like I said to you, when we're driving a car, we're hypnotized because you can get in your car and you can say, I'm going into town or I'm going to meet a friend, but you get there and then all of a sudden you think, oh my goodness, like I don't even remember getting there. And that's because at one stage when you were learning how to drive a car, it was all conscious learning. And then because the conscious mind can only hold on to 5 to 7 pieces of information, it drops it into the subconscious so that it becomes an automatic habit then. So it's just a habit.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Truth That Heals podcast. I am your host, Ryan Anthony Hernandez, and today I'm joined by a special guest coming all the way from Ireland. I'm here with Elizabeth Caplin. Elizabeth, how are you doing today?
I'm very well, and thank you. It's a pleasure and an honor to be on your podcast, Ryan. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Now, can you share what is it that you do?
So I'm a hypnotherapist and mindset coach. I work with clients online, which allows me to see people from all over the world.
Yes, so hypnotherapy, and you also do, did you say life coach?
Mindset coach, Ryan. Yeah.
My mindset coach.
Mm.
So we're going to hold on to that and talk about that a little bit more deeper
Mhm.
later on in this podcast. But I always like to start by getting to know the guest a bit better.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
wanted to ask you now, when did this desire to help people fix their life, have a good mindset, when did that all start in your life?
Okay, so rewind, I suppose, my personal journey. For over 20 years, I was in a toxic, mentally abusive marriage that it completely broke me. And I lived in constant anxiety and fear. I felt trapped and very much controlled and very powerless within that marriage. And I pretended to everybody that life was great, but it was far from great. So because of like multiple discretions, we kept moving homes. And my children, I have two girls, and they were in different schools. And my daughter said to me one day, Mom, I think I counted, we were in 11 schools. And they were often asked, is your family a military family? Because we moved that often. But um, I eventually got the courage to leave that marriage after a lot of just it was there was a lot of things happening and a lot of really hard times and really dark times that I knew as my girls were getting older that it was affecting their lives as well. And it wasn't just affecting me, but it was affecting them. And yeah, so I left that marriage literally with the clothes on our backs and 3 suitcases. And we weren't in Ireland at the time, we were in a different country. And I came home to family. So I had to build myself up again, which was very, very difficult, build myself back up because I didn't know who I was at all from that marriage. I'd lost myself completely. Um, yeah, I didn't know I didn't know. I knew I was a good mother and all of that, but I didn't know my identity. So I was such a person for keeping everything inside me and never not letting people know how I was feeling and letting people know what was happening within the marriage. And, even when I came home, a lot of people, they didn't know why I was home because I tried to keep so much to myself. And even though the marriage was like so bad, I never, at the end of the day, that my ex was my children's father at the end of the day. And regardless of everything, that's what he was. And so I kept so much to myself, and it wasn't the right thing to do because, like, nobody knew I was depressed. Nobody knew I suffered with anxiety. I had to, we literally came back with nothing, like no money. I walked away from home, from work, took my children again out of another school, and my eldest was 16 and my youngest was 12. But I knew I had to move out. I had to move away because I knew wherever I was going had to be better than where I was. So a long story short, how I got into hypnotherapy, years later, my girls moved away. They moved to another country, and I needed to find something for myself. I needed to understand myself better and understand my mind and understand the workings in my brain. I'm such a geek when it comes to the workings of the brain. And so I started to study psychology and counseling. And I kind of fell backwards into hypnotherapy when I heard that 6 sessions of hypnotherapy was the same as 600 sessions of talk therapy. And that just was like, oh my goodness, I need to learn this. I need to figure out what this is. I had gone through counseling myself. I was sent to counseling from a doctor. I was put on medication as well. And that didn't agree with me at all. That made me, not myself at all. And so I started to study hypnotherapy. And what it helped me to do was understand how my mind worked, understand how your thoughts create your feelings, how your feelings create your actions, and your actions create your behaviors, and like so much more, so much. Like, it helped me understand that, to a certain degree, like we know the organs that are in our body. Like, we know we have our liver and our kidneys and all these things that keep our body working. But we also have organs in our brain that keep our brain working and keep our brain functioning. And I never knew anything about what was going on up there. I thought that I was never in control of my life. I always let somebody else control my life. I never realized that I could actually be in control of my life, that I actually could be in control of my destiny, that the past didn't have to, reflect the future. And hypnotherapy helped me so much. And I got into it, Ryan, because I wanted to help myself and my girls. That was it. I never saw it as a business. I never saw it. But how I felt after just the going through the course changed me so much. It just changed how I was. And it lifted depression, it lifted anxiety. And I got to the stage where I was like, more people need to know this. I have to get this out there. So that's how I ended up, little by little and bit by bit, starting to help people. Yeah, and it's grown into a business now.
So I really see the growth, but it was seems to be a slow, not instantaneous process for you to get to understand the things that happened and for you to also claim your voice and to be you again.
Mm.
But uh, you weren't always focused on therapy or how to get help. That came later on. So my question for you is, when you were in that environment,
Mhm.
how were you able to uh, find maybe resources? Like, did you have books? I mean, because you said you didn't do therapy, or did you do therapy during that? So, what resources did you find, or how did you find the strength, or maybe the inspiration to tell yourself, I need to get the hell out of here?
Well, I used to go to the beach. Sounds really weird or whatever. I used to go to the beach and I used to like just say to myself, all I want is inner peace. That's all I wanted. I didn't know what inner peace was. I didn't know where to find it, but all I wanted. Um, I was never encouraged to have self-help books. I would have them, but I would hide them. Yeah. Um, and that was hard because I was with somebody who didn't want me to realize that where I was wasn't where everybody else was, or that the woman down the road wasn't feeling the same. Um, so I think I and I never realized how much control there was over me. But I think like you said, what it was that was like, get the hell out of here. There was loads of little things, like loads of small things. But the crux of it was when my ex-husband was living away from home and working away from home. And there was no money coming home. And our electricity got cut off. And my car was broken and I didn't have the money to fix it. And I'm like, why am I staying? Like, what's the point? I wasn't staying for financial reasons. I reached out to a friend that had gone through a similar situation, but she had gotten out of it. And she just said, Liz, like, it's never going to get better. I kept thinking, because I was promised all the time that things were going to change. I'm going to get better. I'm going to change. We'll move to this country, or we're going to move to that country, and things will. But because I was away, I was isolated. The isolation was so bad. But because I was in the sun and I had the sea and the beach and all of that, it sounded like an ideal life and to the outside. But when my electricity got cut off, and I've told people this before, and they might not believe it, because anybody that knows me now would never think that I lived the life that back there, because we were literally living on beans and toast. Sorry.
No.
And I had enough. And so it took me one whole year to let my family know. A whole year, I hadn't the courage. And I was working part-time and I was earning £250 a month. And that's all we lived on, because no money was coming from anywhere. So it was a no-brainer. We had to come home. And when we left in 1999, I thought that was it. Like, we'd left for a new life and a new opportunities. But when I look back, the marriage was breaking up before that leave. And I heard things afterwards. So it was a long time coming, but like I said, I knew whatever I was going into had to be better than what I was in and what I'd left behind. So
Thank you. I know it's coming onto a podcast and to be vulnerable and to share one's story, one's truth. It can be heavy sometimes. So thank you for having that openness to be on this podcast and to share such a delicate moment in your life. And since you've spoken about those memories of you being on the beach and you were asking for, what was it, inner peace? Is that correct? When you look back today and you see yourself standing on the beach asking for inner peace, if you could talk to that version of you, what would you tell the younger Elizabeth?
at that stage, I probably would have told her to get out of there at that stage and not wait so long, because I think when you're brought up in a family, and I'm getting away from the question, but when you're brought up in a family um, where religion was a big thing, and when you get married, your vows, they're big. And I believed all of my vows, and I took them all very seriously. And, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. And I actually thought that's like anybody saw us together, we were the perfect couple, the perfect couple. And I hung on for so long that I don't know, I thought a miracle might have happened and things might have been different. But yeah, I would have said to that younger Elizabeth there, you don't have to live like this. And I say that to people now. If you're somewhere where you should not be, you shouldn't wait 20 years. If it's not right after 6 months, or if it's not right after a year, don't put yourself through it. Don't do it to yourself. If things don't, if things, you see the red flags. We've all seen the red flags. We all know how we feel on the inside, and yeah, I would have said, everything will be okay, but just don't stay another at that stage. I like it was another 10 years, maybe, you know.
So now for this part of the interview, I want to start kind of talking a bit about the work that you do. But before we really fully dive in, you mentioned something earlier, which I found it to be very interesting. And that is, you said our body has organs, we have organs, but also the brain has its organs that help it to function. Can you break it down? What did you mean by the brain has organs, and shed some light on that statement?
Yeah, well, when we have actually got a GPS in our brain, and it's called the reticular activating system. I don't know if you heard anything about it. I never knew about it. If you're getting into your car and I'm getting into my car and I want to go to Galway, I want to go to Galway. It's not going to take you to Dublin. So we have whatever we program into our RAS, short for reticular activating system, it's like a seeking missile. It seeks out what we want. So most people don't know this. Most people don't realize that we are like, it's what we say, how we say it, the things we ask for, the things we want. They can all be programmed into our own mind on a daily basis. And it's like it is the law of attraction, I suppose, or manifesting. But we actually have a GPS within our own brain that actually help us get what we want. I mean, how amazing is that?
That's fascinating.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
And now getting into the work that you do as a hypnotherapist and as a mindset coach, how do you help to activate this little muscle inside the brain?
Well, you can do it on a conscious level. By most people say that they don't know what they want. I don't, but if when you just say exactly what it is what you want. I thought of it the other day because I was doing something on Chat GPT, and I'm like, oh my God, our minds are like AI. Because you say, I want a recipe for a cheesecake. It won't bring you up a recipe for a donut. It'll bring you up a recipe for a cheesecake. So when we program our minds for success and we program our minds for everything that we want, we can do that consciously. Now, how hypnotherapy helps is that and I would say to people, I'm not being rude, but I don't talk with your conscious mind. I work with your subconscious mind because the subconscious mind, Ryan, is where all the habits are, where all the programs are from all our stresses and our traumas and our past. It's all within the subconscious mind. I think of myself because I grew up with brothers who were always tinkering with motorbikes and cars. So I think of myself like most people, we look at something goes wrong with our car, and you might look at it from the outside. But I feel like I'm the mechanic. I lift up the bonnet and I go inside. And so I lift up the bonnet. We have a conscious mind, we have a subconscious mind, and I go into the subconscious mind. And through hypnosis, gentle hypnosis, you can reprogram you can rewire what's going on within the subconscious mind to stop stress, to stop like stressing, to stop anxiety, to help with the weight loss. There's so many things that hypnotherapy can help with.
And before we even press the record button, I was talking to you about hypnotism therapy. And when some people hear the word hypnotism, there might be a bit of like I'm surrendering my brain to somebody. I'm giving it someone is going to be in control of my brain. And you said something that I didn't expect it, but you were saying how for many of us, it's like our brains are already hypnotized in a sense. Can you kind of talk a bit about that and shed light on that?
Yeah, but even going back to my story, I was hypnotized within that marriage to believe the things I was told. I was hypnotized. But we're hypnotized by the media. We're hypnotized, by TV, by commercials. Like I said to you, when we're driving a car, we're hypnotized because you can get in your car and you can say, I'm going into town or I'm going to meet a friend, but you get there and then all of a sudden you think, oh my goodness, like I don't even remember getting there. And that's because at one stage when you were learning how to drive a car, it was all conscious learning. And then because the conscious mind can only hold on to 5 to 7 pieces of information, it drops it into the subconscious so that it becomes an automatic habit then. So it's just a habit. So we learn things on wherever, if you get up in the morning, you'll notice yourself now, and people that are listening will notice that our lives are run on autopilot. We get up at the same side of the bed every morning. We make our coffee the same way. We have a shower the same way. We brush our teeth with the same hand. We comb our hair the same way. So it's all automatic. So we are hypnotized, really. That's all it is. It's just like that's what we do. We go around in a trance. Basically, 95% of everything we do on a daily basis is all subconscious programming. So the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between a good program or a bad program, like a good habit or a bad habit. It just runs the program. You know, somebody that's biting their nails or pulling their hair or something like this. At one stage, they had something maybe traumatic happen to them as a child. It can be something small. And then they use that as a comfort. So after a while, because it was repeated and repeated consciously, the subconscious mind thought, oh, this is important to this person. So they run it as a habit. And when people have bad habits, somebody might say, why can't you stop biting your nails? Why can't you stop like pulling your hair? That's like asking me or you to stop walking in the morning. We can't do it because it's on a subconscious level. So that's where hypnosis and hypnotherapy come into it. We can work on the subconscious level to change the bad habits, to reprogram them or get rid of them basically as well.
Wow. What are some, maybe can you share a couple stories if possible?
I can share a story of a lady who had a lot of trauma in her life. And she heard me on the radio, and I don't do house visits, but she lived close enough to me that when I spoke to her on the phone, my heart just went, I need to go see this lady. So she was bedbound, wheelchair bound, and chair bound for over 20 years, I think. And it all came from trauma that she experienced when she was a child. So I went to her, and I felt it was a sign because her daughter's name was Elizabeth. She was Mary, and I have a sister, Mary, and her husband's name was John, and Lord rest my dad, his name was John. So I was like, I need to see this woman. So I was with that lady I wouldn't normally do 4 hours of a session. They're normally an hour and a half, but I was with her for 4 hours, and we cleared out so much from her that when I finished, and this might not be habits, but this impacted me a lot, this session. When we finished, she stood up, and I went, Mary, what's happening? Where are you going? And she said, I want to walk you to the door. And I was, no, you can't walk me to the door. Your husband and your daughter's gone to do the shopping. I'll wait with you. She's like, no, Elizabeth, I'll walk you to the door. She walked me to the door. And I was like, go back in, and I'll wait. She was like, no, it's fine. I said, please get one of your family to call me to let me know that you're okay. But she had released so much trauma and so much beliefs that she had held in her body from she was a child. She just released them all in that session. That she was able to walk. And to me, that's my most kind of miraculous one. I have had people that are nail biters that after one session they don't bite their nails anymore. I have had a lady who was going to give up her job. Not her job. Yes, her job. She was a business owner. And she was going to go back to the 9 to 5 because she just was getting nowhere in her business. And after a few sessions, she was like, I'm never going back to a 9 to 5. She had released so much. Like, again, it's the beliefs, Ryan, that we hold. We hold so much beliefs that we're not good enough, that we're not worthy, that why should we have this? I couldn't do as good as that person. We have all these beliefs in our subconscious mind. And she's out now speaking and like this on podcasts and on stages, and she's doing really, really well. Like I had my youngest client was a 9-year-old, a boy who was afraid of buttons. Would you believe? He had a fear of buttons from he was 3. His family didn't know why that had ever happened, but obviously something traumatic happened around buttons, and it went into the subconscious mind, and it was lying there, and he was triggered by buttons everywhere. His family had to wear only like tracksuit bottoms and t-shirts, and when he'd go to school he had to zip up to here because there was 3 little buttons on his polo shirt. And I did a little session with him because children, their attention span is very small, but very little. And I did a little session with him, and I said, run off and find me something with buttons. And he came back with his little polo shirt, and he was right. And he was like, look, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. Our subconscious mind is so powerful, Ryan. It's so powerful that hypnotherapy is the closest thing to magic that I've ever seen. It's it's magical.
And
It's
why do you think not more people, there aren't more people
Mm.
who find help and hold on to to this way of thinking? Why do you think that is?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question because I always have people say, you're my last resort. And I wish that I was their first resort, or people like me was their first resort. They go down the doctors and the prescriptions and all of that. And I think it is that people weren't taught how to think. They think they think. I know it
Mhm,
sounds really strange,
mhm,
but they allow others to think for them. They have this belief. A lot of people have the belief that I'll be happy when I get the big car. I'll be happy when I get the house. I'll be happy when I go on holidays. Instead of realizing that it comes from within. The happiness comes from within. When you get that first, and when you get your inner peace that I've got eventually, and it's inside, and when you're happy now, then you don't need the external. You don't need the car, or it's nice. All those things are lovely and they're all nice. But so many people don't actually, they think they're thinking, but like I said, they're not really thinking. They don't realize how powerful their brain is. And like we update our phones,
mhm.
we update our computers, we update our cars, but so many people don't upgrade themselves. They don't upgrade the software in their own brains. They don't realize that they're still believing things that they learned through from their parents or from their grandparents, and they're bringing it through life, or maybe, excuse me, they were told in school that they weren't good at reading or they were stupid at maths or something, and then they're 50 and 60 and they're still believing these things. Or you hear something said when you go to church as a child and you believe it, and as an adult you're still believing it. Or like me in a marriage, I believed what I was being told on a continuous basis, and I just believed it until I didn't, until I realized that there was another way. I'm not sure if that answered your
No,
question.
no, yes. I mean, I think sometimes could be a fear, or sometimes people are in a relationship either with family or friends or with a loved one where maybe it's even frightening to think of being better. There's like a survivor's guilt kind of thing. But really just so important to open that door and, like, let's say, read a book on self-help, or to change one's way of thinking and changing one's way of viewing the world. Because when we see the world with that lens, that old lens of being ashamed of, oh, we're not good enough, then from the behavior that follows, and I'm not a therapist or a counselor, but I just know from my own personal experience that the behaviors that I have, or in the work that I do, it's I don't know if I want to say low energy, but I feel that it's not fully me. And I think it's beautiful when we're able to cross the line from old self and being accepting of a new self. So I really love this, what you're bringing to the world, and that is the hope that people can improve, and
It's the hope. Yeah.
and it's okay to ask for help.
It's so okay to ask for help. And not, I ask for help now. I reach out for help now, but it took me a long time. And I only said this to somebody the other day, that came from a very proud family, which there's nothing wrong with that, but came from a very proud family, was a very proud woman growing up. And I think that pride stopped me from asking for help, because I didn't want the walls to come down. I didn't want my life to crumble, but it crumbled anyway, Ryan, you know? And I think when you were talking about levels, I think when you're on a low vibration, when you're sad or you're lonely or you're depressed when you're on a low vibration, you only attract other people and other things on a low vibration. When you level up, when you reach out for help, when you read those self-help books, like you said, or you make that phone call to somebody to help, you start leveling up. And like I would say that I need it, even though the feelings are still there about the past, Liz, I would need a telescope to see back there now. I really, really would. And like I said, I think before, is that the people that know me now, that have only come into my life in later years, this is probably going to be the first that they've heard of this, because they wouldn't know any. I think I'm like an onion. There's layers and layers and layers like you to us, and we only show what we need to show to certain people at a certain time. But we do see the world through our own lens, and you see the world through your we all see the world as we see it. And I always say, you don't get what you want, you get what you are. So you have to become, if you want to be successful, and you want so things in your life, you have to become the person who can have those things before you even have them. You have to be that wealthy woman before you're even wealthy. You have to be that, confident man, or before you're confident. Like I would see people for confidence and public speaking, people that are so nervous, be going on to a stage, that one session of hypnotherapy can get them on there, because you get what the way it works is that it's work through imagination and visualization. So when you visualize something over and over again, then your mind, like I said, it doesn't know the difference between real or imaginary. It just takes what you give it. So when you imagine yourself being confident and stepping into confidence, then when you go on that stage, the brain's like, oh, I remember this. Ryan's confident, or whoever, Liz is confident, and they just run that program then.
So now I wanted to ask you my ultimate question, and that
Oh.
is, Liz, what is your truth that heals?
Okay, so for me, my truth that heals has to be hypnotherapy. I can genuinely say that hypnotherapy has not only changed my life, but it has saved my life. And when I realized that I wasn't broken and that there was nothing wrong with me, and all that I needed was to tweak a few things up there and to understand how much I was in control of my life. That because I wasn't, that and the hypnotherapy gave that to me. So that's what I would say. That is the truth that heals for me. So hypnotherapy helped me understand the workings of my brain and how to change how I used to be into who I am now. And I'm continuing to grow every day and getting better every day. And the ripple effect that it's had on my family is enormous, on my girls. And we've been through something this year that has not rocked us. It has rocked us. If that had have happened me years ago, I don't know. But I know because of hypnotherapy, I took some time out of my work, but I came back because I know how powerful the mind is. And I know that if I was to stay in a negative place, that I would go down a dark road and I'd be back to square one. And so I know because of that, I was able to rise up, still hurt and still feeling pain, but able to rise up and get out there and help people heal from their past and from even things that they're going through, because I can do it for myself. And when I can do it for myself, that's how I know that I can help others. But yeah, I champion hypnotherapy all the way, Ryan.
Well, thank you so much, Elizabeth. And for those who are in the audience and who are probably thinking, wow, I would really like to talk to Elizabeth. Maybe she can help me out with something. Where can they find you?
So do you put things in your show notes? You probably do.
Absolutely. Yes, I do.
So what I want to give your audience, if it's okay, I just have it here. So what I want to give them is, if they it was there, I apologize. If they go on to ElizabethCaplin.ie /audio, in there they will find an 8-minute hypnosis recording to help relieve anxiety and stress. And every Sunday I send out a newsletter where every Sunday I give a little hypnosis recording to help people shift out of what they might be going through on that day. I get so much feedback from that. So if they'd like to go there, they'll get that. And I am on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. I'm on all the platforms, Ryan. So if you, yeah.
Okay, so I'll be sharing that on the show notes. And again, Elizabeth, it's been a pleasure having you here on the Truth That Heals podcast.
Thank you so much, Ryan. It's been a pleasure to meet you. Thank you.